Greg?
Hi, Dana.
Um, Last time we chatted, you were talking a little bit about how this was a really busy time of year for you, and that you felt that you had an extra challenge on top of that busyness because you are working with a learning disability as well. So I was wondering today, because we only have about 10 minutes, if we could just quickly look at that topic and maybe see how it's making you feel and how that's adding some challenges or how that's integrating into your life, and then see if from that conversation we can have any take home points for you. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, yeah.
Tell me a little bit about what your schedule looks like on an average basis right now.
Um, well, most of my day consists of a lot of reading and then a lot of trying to assimilate that reading or a lot of the homework. Because my disability is a writing disorder, it takes me like the average person would take maybe to take 5 pages in 2 or 3 hours, right? Whereas I might take 10 hours just to compare, right? So I always like right now I'm doing an assignment for one of my classes in group therapy, and it's you know I've already spent like 60 hours on a 10-page paper in 3 weeks, and it's not even due till July the 7th, but I'm trying to push through it, and it's just and then I'm doing these videos with this other class, and it's yeah. So
So it sounds like tasks that you feel take others a lot less time take a lot more of your work and your effort.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And it only comes out when I'm in a school environment. Like when I'm at my regular job as social work and I have to do a report, it's like, phew, it's no problem. Maybe because I've done so many of them, maybe that's why. But when I'm in school, it's like this block because of the disorder of writing, and then it just fuels my anxiety of feeling insecure already, and then we have to do these stupid posts, part of my French, and I just hate them. I just like but at least one of my profs, he's really good. He lets me verbally respond to one of them, and then the other one I have to write, because then that way I'm still engaging with the class, right? So yeah.
So I've heard you touch on a couple of things in that last statement, and I was wondering, you mentioned a couple of feelings around, how that anxiety that comes with your learning disability often makes it a bit more challenging. Can you outline for me a little bit about what your feelings are when your learning disability gets triggered?
um Well, frustration is one key one, because I'm frustrated that I have this block, because it's a writer's block is basically what I have, but it's called dysgraphia is more the technical term, but it so it prevents me from getting my thoughts down on paper, and so I find it frustrating, and then I also get into comparisonitis, because I look at people and there's people that like they don't have that problem, so I'm comparing myself to them as I'm reading their posts, and I'm like, man, they're so articulate, right? Because it doesn't affect my reading, it just affects my ability to articulate what I want to say onto a screen or onto paper, right? So yeah, so I get into comparisonitis, and then that causes me to get anxious and then feel more insecure because I'm anxious, and then I'm like, well, just suck it up, get over your anxiety, but it doesn't stop, right? Yeah. So,
Absolutely. And so that frustration is also, it sounds like there's also a component of comparison there, which is, fueling that anxiety. But it also sounds like, you want to make sure that your real talents are shining through, and that there might be some frustration around the fact that you can't do that, and making sure others are aware of exactly what you're thinking, and in regards to the material.
yes, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly it right there. Yeah, yeah, and and it just makes me really busy because I'm lost in trying to get this all, and then I'm like isolated even more from my friends and my family because I'm like, you know, a normal test takes me so much longer when it comes to doing essays, right? And I just, yeah.
So if you
So
didn't have this other element, what other things do you imagine you could be doing with that time?
I could probably be not working as hard related to school or spending so much time related to, so I could be doing, you know, hanging out with friends or, you know, doing more photography or more genealogy to some of the things that I enjoy or, you know, having more of a social life as well. And yeah.
So when you talk about a couple of those things, like doing some other work besides schoolwork or having more opportunities for relationships, how do you feel when you talk about those things?
Part of me feels contented, like I'm okay with setting the boundary for now because I know in 2020 is my goal to be finished with my schooling, and it's kind of okay. I've been here before with my bachelor's degree, so now it's a graduate degree, so it's kind of I'm familiar with it, but at the same time, I'm feeling sad that I'm like almost like I'm missing out
Hmm.
because of it. So I feel almost like they say left behind or kind of, you know, isolated, and so.
And when you think forward towards, that deadline for having this done, um, what what sort of feelings crop up about having it done? And when you can imagine yourself, holding that diploma, how are you feeling?
Um, well, I reflect back to my when I got my bachelor's degree, and I was so excited because I was so blown away because when I was 5 years old, they knew I had a learning disability, but they didn't know what it was called because it was so long ago, but they didn't have a label for it. So I remember feeling like um, I'm, you know, the fact that I'm here is a miracle almost, if that makes sense, right? So I hang on to that feeling, but at the same time, I'm like, oh my god, am I ever gonna make this? Am I gonna survive this thing? And what the heck did I think I was doing? And all this self-talk messages go off in my head about how I'm not gonna make it and how, you know, you know, this person's going to be so wonderful at their job and this person's going to do this, and there's a leader in that person, but it's like myself, I'm like, oh, I just, yeah, am I going to make it, right? Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is that there's a lot of emotions going on with this. There's a lot of frustration and a bit of anxiety in the short term, and then that's also resulting in some isolation because of the sheer time that it takes, and and a bit of concern that this is a long haul. But at the same time, you think about how you're feeling, imagining making that next step. And so I'm wondering, just to transition from that positive feeling about making the next step of having the degree and everything, if you could talk a little bit about why you actually went through this process and perhaps what that means for you.
um I think it's because I was sick and tired of doing frontline child protection social work, and I wanted to do something else, but I still wanted to help people because I've been helped, so I wanted to return the favor, that kind of thing, if that makes sense. But at the same time, I'm like, I feel like an imposter, right? I just, so, and I'm trying to fight through that at the same time and tell myself, oh, well, they told you you couldn't get a degree back when you were a kid and you were 5 years old and had the assessment. They told you would be unlikely to graduate high school. And technically, I didn't graduate high school. I never got a high school diploma, but, I got a bachelor's degree. So, yeah. But, it's just, yeah. So I hang on to that and I go, I'm going to prove them wrong.
So that what I'm hearing is that for you, this is, I mean, meaning wise, this is huge. This is defying all those boundaries, all of those kind of comments, which it sounds like now you still have a bit of that. You're still questioning, But I mean, this for you is huge in regards to the meaning it poses, not only being able to be in that helping position, but also proving that these are things that you can accomplish.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Spot on.
So just in the last couple moments here, going back to that short term, um, when you think about the next month, um, how do you imagine being able to take the feelings and all of those things that we've just discussed, um, how can those help inform your next month of working and planning on how to get these things done?
Um, I think first off, it's just a matter of reminding myself that it's okay to be a little bit differently abled. It's not that I'm disabled, it's just that I'm differently abled, and that means I'm a little slower than some, and that's okay. It's like the guy that needs crutches, he walks a little slower. It's, I have a crutch, right? I have to talk on a mic, right? So, and that kind of thing, and it's just, but sometimes that's easier said than done, but I'll have to just keep trying to remind myself of those factors, right? And keep going through, and to remind myself to take a little bit of a break and not just sit there for an hour and a half and, oh, okay, for 20 minutes. Oh, okay. And then take a 5-minute break and come back to it and realize I might have to take multiple breaks because sometimes I forget because I'm trying to do so much, right? So.
What it sounds like is that you've taken those feelings and those goals, and you've kind of reframed your challenge in a way that is a bit more manageable, and seems like something that you can work towards, opposed to something that just causes you problems.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Exactly.
so I think that's really positive, and that's a fantastic choice. So you talked a little bit about taking breaks. What kind of couple of things could you think of just before we leave that are options for you for breaks that would provide you that break time?
I think it's just getting away from my chair and then going out the door behind me and going in, whether it's just going upstairs and walking around and walking through my acreage, or kind of, or just walking on my treadmill, but just moving around and not sitting in the same space where I'm working with all this clutter of school stuff. So
Well, I think that sounds like a great idea. And so just before we leave, we started talking at the start about your busyness and how your learning disability or learning challenge factors into that. There's a lot of feelings that you have around that, and frustration and anxiety when looking at your peers. And there's also, some looks at some feelings around getting the degree accomplished and why you're doing that. And it seems like this is really something that means a lot to you for multiple reasons. And that by reframing the challenge in a more positive way and a more accomplishable way, you can do that. And one of the ways is by taking little steps like taking breaks. So I really hope that this goes well over the next couple weeks, and I look forward to touching base about how this busy time shakes out.
okay, thanks, Dan.
Thanks.